This is everything in the Twitterverse. Rick Perry's been sort of fighting for that fourth place. Even John Huntsman is above Newt Gingrich and Michelle Bachmann in terms of sentiment that they're getting online. So this is kind of interesting that it's bogging us down. These are more than our server provider expected. These are going through big servers, and there are just a lot of people talking about these candidates. Now, I will tell you, it's not all positive. It's positive, it's negative, it's a whole bunch of sentiment. All of these green dots are tweets that are from these places that are positive, that mention a candidate. All of the gray ones are neutral. We can't determine whether they're positive or negative. The red ones are absolutely negative. You can see there aren't a whole lot of negative tweets out there right now. These are people talking about their candidates or mentioning what's going on. Everything you see that's white, by the way, there's so many things going on that you can't see. So you can see in Iowa, they're piled up on each other. That's why you're seeing white dots. So bottom line, there are a whole lot more people than those in Iowa and those who are just Republicans interested in what's going on tonight. They're really talking about these candidates on these numbers.
Ali, thanks very much. Our coverage continues. The vote's still being counted in some places. We continue to get new numbers in. We'll be right back. Have more numbers for you.
CNN's coverage of the Iowa caucuses is sponsored by coal, the source of nearly half of our electricity. It is America's power. And by AT&T. Get it faster with 4G. Rethink possible. Go to CNNpolitics.com to get the most up-to-date news and facts from the best political team on television.
Our economy, our workforce. We've all taken some big hits. But this is America, with more energy from coal, the fuel that supplies nearly half our electricity affordably. We'll keep energy costs in check, jobs in America, and together we will power the next great comeback. Clean coal, that's America's power.
This new AT&T 4G LTE is fast.
Did you hear Sam got promoted to director?
So 12 seconds ago.
We should get him a present.
Thanks for the gift basket.
You're welcome.
You see HR just sent out new
office rules? Because you're currently in violation of 6 of them.
Oh, yeah, baby.
And 7.
You guys hear that Fred's leaving?
So 30 seconds ago.
We'll miss you.
Oh, face cake.
Some leftover cake.
The new HTC Vivid. Stay a step ahead with AT&T 4G LTE with speeds up to 10 times faster than 3G.
Nothing but his computer, an identity thief is able to use your information to open a bank account in order to make your money his money. You need LifeLock, the only identity protection company that now monitors bank accounts for takeover fraud. LifeLock, relentlessly protecting your identity. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go to lifelock.com today.
Tinker, tailor, soldier, spy. A mind-bending thriller. There's a mole right at the top of British intelligence. Gary Oldman is flawless. She had information, the mother of all secrets.
What the hell are you doing up here?
Perhaps the great spy tale of our time.
We've been the only thing standing between Moscow and the Third World War.
Hands down, the best thriller of the year. Now's the time. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. Rated R. In select theaters now, everywhere Friday.
The more you lose, the more you lose. Because for every 2 pounds you lose through diet and exercise, Ally can help you lose 1 more by blocking some of the fat you eat. Let's fight fat with Ally.
Ever wonder who's searching for you? Go to mylife.com, the internet's leading social site. Just type in your name and see if someone is searching for you for free. Who's searching for you? Go to mylife.com and find out if someone is searching for you right now for free.
We got cameras at the headquarter locations for the candidates. The 3 candidates who appear to be doing it the best right now in the official vote. Almost 50% of the precincts are in. It's a very, very close race between Rick Santorum, Mitt Romney, and Ron Paul. You see the headquarters right there, the Romney headquarters. They're getting ready to hear from him. Believe in America. That's what it says about Mitt Romney. Rick Santorum, faith, family, and freedom. You see the big banner behind the stage there. And Ron Paul, restore America now. We're going to hear from all of these candidates. Stand by. But let me show you the vote count, the official vote count right now as it stands. These are not entrance poll numbers. These are official numbers. 48% of the precincts have reported. Rick Santorum is now 328 votes ahead of Mitt Romney. They both have 24%, 13,339 for Rick Santorum, 13,011 for Mitt Romney. Ron Paul slightly behind with 22%, 11,972. Newt Gingrich at 13%, 7,248. He was really hurt by all those negative ads that were pummeled against him over these past several weeks in Iowa. Rick Perry is at 10%. If you take a look over there, the bottom three, Michelle Bachmann at 6%, and John Huntsman only 1%. Big night. You know, Rick Santorum, Anderson, you know, you think about it, Rick Santorum, 2 weeks, well, we had our CNN Time Magazine poll that came out last week. That was the first real indication. It was only a week or so ago that he was doing amazingly well, out of the blue, seemingly.
And then it was this 4-day Des Moines Register poll, which really tracked it over the course of those 4 days. Early on in the poll, he was getting below 15%. The last 2 days of the poll, pollsters were finding he was getting above 22, 23%.
Normally, Iowa is the first act. It was not this cycle. The debates were the first act. And Iowa, unlike in past campaigns, up until that last debate a couple of weeks ago, Iowa kept tracking the national polls. Normally, you'd have a national poll. If you go back 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, 20 years, you have a national poll, and Iowa's always a little quirky, a little contrarian. It's a little different. The Iowa polls tracked the national polls all through the debate season. Then the debates stopped. And Iowa was fought the old-fashioned way, retail politics. And whether you support Rick Santorum or not, you have to give credit. The candidate with the least money did it the old-fashioned way, spending some of his own life savings out there. He doesn't have a lot of money. There are people out there saying, oh, he's a former congressman, a former senator, he gets a pension. Of all these candidates, he does not have a lot of money. And he did it the old-fashioned way. I went out there 3 different times to see him. And in November, you could begin to pick it up, that the grassroots activists, the Christian conservatives were saying, you know what, this guy's really trying. And another point, Ron Paul and Rick Santorum, after Herman Cain left the race, a lot of the grassroots activists who don't like politicians, who don't trust politicians, who think they're all, forgive me, liars, say these guys are authentic.
And he became a positive candidate. You know, I remember when he was running for the Senate and he lost that race. He became kind of a negative candidate at a very tough time. In this particular race, the higher he went in the polls, the more positive he became. He found that little sweater vest, which has become a trademark. And this evening, what we're seeing in these entrance polls is that he does well with women. He does well with values voters, and that's an important constituency in Iowa.
The timing is everything, though. Can he sustain it now when he moves on as a serious candidate? Right. They'll say he was big for earmarks when he was in Congress. The Tea Party doesn't like that. He voted for the Medicare prescription drug benefit. The Tea Party views that as a big entitlement. He peaked at the right time before anybody could turn their fire on him. All these other guys who peaked, then they got the target on
him. Because now he's going to
no more debates. No more debates, right?
Well, it's one in New Hampshire on Saturday.
Right, but in this interregnum,
in this part,
he wasn't challenged.
But he won't be at the edge of the debate anymore. He'll actually be at the center of it.
The focus of it, which changes the whole dynamic. We should talk about support for Ron Paul. One of the things that Ron Paul likes to tout is his support among active duty military personnel. He says he receives, in terms of financial donations, twice as much as all the other candidates combined. We heard from an active duty soldier Dana Bash was talking to. We lost the satellite link, which I think probably a lot of people online think was some sort of conspiracy. But it is interesting. That is one of the things that his fellow Republicans have attacked him for, saying his foreign policy is dangerous, and yet we heard this active duty soldier giving support.
It's interesting. Within the military itself, you find a lot of people who feel that both the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan have been badly executed. It's not unlike Vietnam. There were a lot of people who came home from Vietnam were really angry about the way it was executed. And a fair number of those people are among our military people saying, bring them home. You know, this isn't working. Let's come home. It's interesting because we have this sort of monolithic view of the military. They all sort of salute one. As you know from all your trips, they're very different when you actually talk to them.
Anderson, we were talking too about whether Rick Santorum or Ron Paul have the staying power in the establishment. And I was talking about our strike team, how they seem to believe that both of them would. But when it comes to Ron Paul specifically, Bill Gross, who I talked about, was the biggest manager of bonds in this country, said specifically the reason that he would support him was cutting the deficit, but because he's pulling troops out and listing all the different places. And of the other major investors, major CEOs who see merit in Ron Paul, yeah, they think getting rid of the Fed, that's a quote-unquote, crazy idea, some of them would say. But they really believe in his cutting the deficit and pro-capitalism, and there is a mainstream, or shall we call it establishment, group that would support him or support Rick
I understand,
Santorum.
Wolf, we're getting in more votes
we're getting
right
some new numbers. Let me go over the vote board over here. 49% of the precincts have now reported almost half. And look at this, Rick Santorum establishing a lead of 350 votes ahead of Mitt Romney, 13,501 to 13,151. They're both at 24%. Ron Paul, not very far behind, 12,146 at 22%. Newt Gingrich, a distant fourth with 13%, 7,368. Rick Perry, only 10%, 5,600 votes. Michelle Bachmann, 6%. Very disappointing night for Michelle Bachmann. She was born in Iowa, raised in Iowa, represents a district in Minnesota that's right next door. Unfortunately for her, she's not doing very well in these caucuses. John Huntsman didn't really campaign. He's going full speed ahead in New Hampshire. We'll see how he does a week from today in New Hampshire. Anderson, it's still way too close to call. Oh, there you are, over there.
Can we keep moving around here? Very dynamic night here. The map is starting to populate in terms of the population centers. What are we seeing now?
What we're seeing is more of the counties filling in, and this part of the state is very important. And again, the split, I want to go back in time. 4 years ago, this was Mike Huckabee country. Right. One county for Romney, one county for Romney here. This is your Tea Party evangelical vote. Mike Huckabee took it all 4 years ago. We've got a split this time. The lighter pink color there, that's Ron Paul. The dark red is Mitt Romney. The purple is Rick Santorum. We have a three-way race here. Earlier, I told you Michelle Bachmann was winning one county. That was this county up here, Howard County. Rick Santorum now has the lead there with 80% of the vote counted. So Michelle Bachmann is on track right now to not even win one Iowa county. Newt Gingrich is carrying this county up here right now, 50% of the vote in, but as you can see, pretty close. We'll watch the vote come in. But Anderson, right now, almost half of the precincts counted. You've got this tiny lead, and so we're going to watch this play out. I told you earlier, when you have such a close race, you have to focus on the big population centers. By Iowa standards, that means here, Polk County. Only 37% of the vote counted right here, right now. Ron Paul is winning, but by the tiniest margin. Mitt Romney not that far behind. We need to watch this. This will be key. This is where the most votes are still outstanding tonight, in the center of the state, by the state capitol. Then you come over here, Dubuque, 3% of the population here. About 44% of the vote counted. Romney is ahead there. One of the things we'll do throughout the night, Romney tonight, match it up to Romney 4 years ago. He had 42% there 4 years ago, just 33% now. He needs to continue to lead in this county if he wants to pull this one out. Another population center, Davenport and Cedar Rapids here. Here is our biggest question still remaining tonight. In the western part of the state, look at the open areas right here. This is a very conservative part of the state. And right here, these are mostly small counties, 0.5%. 1% of the vote, but right here, where Sioux City is, Woodbury County, 3.5% of the population. You watch the western part fill in. If the margins stay the same in all these counties here, we're at 46%. If the margins stay roughly the same in this part of the state, it is the conservative western part of the state that could well settle this race, Anderson. We're watching the math come in. It is just a fascinating time. And as you look at the colors, we had a two-way race 4 years ago, a three-way race now. We're going to be at this a while.
Yeah, just a couple hundred votes right now separating the top three. Let's check in with Alex Castellanos, Republican strategist, CNN contributor. Also, Eric Erickson, CNN contributor and editor-in-chief for RedState.com. They're at Santorum headquarters. It looks a lot more crowded. Looks like a lot more excitement there, or energy there since last time we talked. They've got to be excited about what they're seeing in the polls and clearly waiting for some of those votes still to come in from the northwestern part of the state, from Sioux City and elsewhere.
Yeah, finally, voters are starting to outnumber media here. So, yeah, you can feel a little bit of excitement. But there's a lot of good news here. For Rick Santorum, for example, it appears he's doing well enough that he's going to get attacked by Rick Perry next week in South Carolina. Looks like Mitt Romney has done well enough that he's going to get attacked by Newt Gingrich in New Hampshire. And it appears Ron Paul has done well enough that he's going to get to attack everybody everywhere next week. So we've got a tough three-front war here that has broken out in Iowa tonight. And one thing I think we're learning is that big turnout that Republicans were hoping for, we're hoping to send a message to President Obama, hey, that Republicans are motivated. We may not get that tonight. It looks like this is going to be a turnout somewhere on the level of the last election for Republicans. So it's like going to the movies. Nobody says, hey, I want to go to the movies tonight. I just don't know which movie I want to see. That large undecided vote is going to give us, I think, less turnout than the 150,000 people had hoped for.
Eric, we heard a lot of angry rhetoric today on the campaign trail. Santorum calling Ron Paul disgusting, Newt Gingrich calling Romney a liar. Do you think, to Alex's point, that that tough rhetoric continues now and just amplifies in the days ahead? Or do they take a step back somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it continues. I think they get into South Carolina. Now, forget New Hampshire. They go to South Carolina, and it gets uglier. And South Carolina's